How could a father, a husband, and a well-respected person in the community commit such a heinous and horrible crime that seems like it's all for a sick and twisted pleasure game? Long before Sylvester Matuska became known as the Terror of Beatorbag, he was a husband, father, school teacher slash inventor, prominently known by the community as a very political, wealthy, and religious man. Now, he was a school teacher with his wife in a small little village that he actually was born and grew up in, Casantaver, located in Serbia. Him and his wife also had a daughter in 1922. Later, once World War I started, he was recruited by the Austro-Hungarian monarchy to help the war effort. He would actually become a very respected war veteran and hero. He became an officer right off the get-go just because he had a high school diploma. He later would be promoted to first lieutenant and also would be charged with a squad where he would be the leader of it. After his service in World War I, he would later go back home. He would move to Vienna in the 1930s in Austria, where he would make several investment plans. He would buy a spice and deli shop. He would also buy a 3-story apartment complex in Budapest where he would make another source of income, and a 4-bedroom apartment complex as well where him and his family would live in. Now, because of the economic downturn at the time, he would later sell all of his investments that I previously mentioned. This didn't stop him from reinvesting in other things. He would later purchase a quarry mine where he would later find material to help with his nefarious scheming. Now, on the outside looking in, it seemed like he had everything in life. He had a family, a wife, fairly successful businesses, but he did have some fairly dark secrets. One of them being was that he was a major alcoholic, where between the hours of 2 and 3 a.m. most nights, he would go out to a local pub and drink until dawn. Some witnesses stated that they saw him drink a whole bottle of whiskey and not even be fazed by it. Some mental health specialists and people who did research the mind behind Sylvester Matuska also think that he suffers from symphoriophilia, which is, long story short, is that he gets sexual arousal from very massive amounts of destruction happening that he planned out. Matuska's lust for destruction became so grand that in 1930 he decided to go out in Austria and try to derail 2 types of trains at 2 various locations and times, but they were both unsuccessful. It was on August 8th, 1931, located near Berlin in Germany, where he did place an explosive device on the tracks of a railroad. Now, the way this worked, his plan was that the pressure and weight of the train and the speed would run over this suitcase that he had full of explosives and TNT. Now, the train would run over the suitcase, and the amount of force and impact that would be upon the suitcase would ignite that explosive charge. Now, in Berlin, it did explode, but however, no one died. There were people that were gravely injured, but no one died from this explosion. I wish I could say the same thing for the next event. On September 13th, 1931, in the early morning, the 11-car passenger train was headed towards its final destination, Vienna, Austria, heading from Budapest, Hungary. Everything seemed relatively normal and peaceful until about 12:20 a.m. when the passengers who were sound asleep heard a deafening explosion and blinding light coming through the passenger car windows. This resulted in 6 of the 11 cars falling 30 meters down off of the Beatorbag viaduct. Now, the result of this catastrophe and horrible event was the death of 22 people, 17 very serious injuries, and 120 people were injured. Sylvester Matuska was watching as all this unfolded with a big smile on his face and laughing. He also joined the wreckage, trying to create a cover for himself that he was involved in the wreck. This would later become his downfall, as the officers and emergency responders would notice that he acted very strange. People would say that he was laughing, crying because he was laughing so hard at all the destruction around him. And I get that there is hysteria and people do really weird things in very dark and twisted circumstances, such as maybe people are so hysterical that they do laugh a lot, but the officers took note of this. The Vienna Express was actually not supposed to be the first train to leave and go on the Beatorbag viaduct. It was actually supposed to be the second. The first was supposed to be a freight train that was supposed to cross that bridge with relatively no people on it. Of course, it got delayed, and this is how the story unfolded, is that the poor passenger train did blow up. While the officers were doing their investigation on who was behind this explosion, they did find the remains of the explosive device and a paper that has communist propaganda on it. So the investigators did assume that communism or a communist party was involved in the bombing, and it was sort of a political act. Now, Matuska did try to acquire a settlement because he did act as a victim of the crime that he did commit himself, but that just put a bigger spotlight on him while the investigation process was happening. Shortly after the bombing attack happened, Matuska was arrested on October 7th, and he was transported from Budapest, Hungary to Vienna, Austria. The Austrian court would sentence Matuska to 6 years in prison, but he would later be extradited to Hungary for a life sentence. Now, originally it was a death penalty, but the governor at the time, Governor Miklos Horthy, did pardon him. He was placed in the prison in the city of Vac, which he started his life sentence in 1938, which inevitably the sentence would end on 1944. While Matuska was on trial, he did tell the judge that he was possessed by a spirit named Leo, and it kind of gets mixed up during all the research that I was focusing on, that it either is he told the judge that it was a spirit of Leo that told him to commit the bombings, or that he was hypnotized as a little boy in a carnival and that's what led to him wanting to cause so much destruction. But I'm just going to go with that he was called a god by the spirit of Leo to commit these horrible acts. On December 6, 1944, a prison commander by the name of Bela Varotsky received word from the German forces that they needed to either release all 800 prisoners or they were just going to be executed. So 750 prisoners did end up leaving the prison. 50 of them stayed, one of them being Matuska himself. The reasoning for that, because he knew the Serbian language, that the Soviets were going to come through and he was just going to hook up with the Soviets and join them, which was true. Turned out the Soviets helped clear out the city of Vac. He joined up with them. Now, this is where it kind of splits off into several different kind of stories where they come by, pick him up, and he pretends to be a medical surgeon to help them finish off the war effort. And another version is that the Soviets come by, he joins up with them, and he goes to a pharmacy and he tells the pharmacist that he's Sylvester Matuska, the terror of Biatorbag, and he just left the city. I just like to think that he became a fake medical surgeon and just hooked up with the Russians, but there's much conspiracy that the locals say about his legend and mystery behind him after he left. People say that there was bombings in Sweden, that he could be behind it, but there's no evidence that he was there. People also said that he was spotted in Korea. There was several local tall tales, or they could be true, about him wandering around. No one had confirmation where he was or even if he was dead. That's what's crazy. It's just that the war brought out so much chaos and just people got to get away with a lot of stuff. Yeah, this man that did horrible things to people, he spent a little bit of time in jail, but overall he finished his life as a free man. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Tell your friends about me. I'm trying to find more content to look up, so if you guys have any stories, suggestions, please put them down in the comments below. I will gladly look them up. This is really fun. I love doing this. And thanks again, guys, for watching. You guys have a good one.